If you have not tried the jalapeno crunchy Cheetos, you are missing out. This is good stuff right here. Welcome to Reel Filmmaking. My name is Corey Tindall. Thanks for checking out the channel. I do a lot of stuff related to filmmaking and storytelling, and today I wanted to do a video particularly about storytelling. Now, as somebody who loves movies, been watching movies since I was a kid, and in the last couple of years have gotten into filmmaking, particularly like videography and directing, I have a soft spot in my heart for telling a good story. I love a good story. There honestly is nothing better than sitting down in a theater, watching a film that is so well done, you know, like from the aesthetics to the choreography to the acting and the overall direction of the film, and walking out of there and being like, wow, that was great. Unfortunately, I've not had those experiences recently. I've seen a lot of films that I feel just have a lack of direction overall, and that's been really disappointing. So somewhere in the midst of that, I came up with an idea to talk about, like, what are things that, as we are working to tell stories, you know, every film that we're making is a story that we are telling. How do we tell better stories, particularly in our short films? Now, I've directed a number of short films, been in some short films, and they're one of my favorite narrative styles of filmmaking to do. You know, I love a grand epic, and like, you know, one day I'd love to direct a feature film, but short films are really nice for testing like your skills, getting different actors involved and working with you. They're great material to show to a prospective producer or client, somebody who would want to take you on as a filmmaker. Along with all that stuff, I love being able to take a small story and just kind of tell it and breathe life into it and let it out for people to see. So, how to tell a good story when you're making a short film. And I think there's 3 essential key components. And I'm talking about short film storytelling. I think these principles could be applied to any type of storytelling, but I do filmmaking here, so that's what I'm going to talk about. And I think those 3 points, when it comes down to it in storytelling, that really make a good story are having a clear vision, having consistent characters throughout your narrative, and committing to decisions made in the storytelling. I think the biggest one, the most important, is having a clear vision for what story you want to tell. You know, there's so many films that come out nowadays that they're like big and they're blockbustery and they're like, we have to do all these things and special effects and whatever, and they lose the heart of telling a good story. You should be able to tell me your story for your short film in 1 to 2 sentences. I can get a gist of what the film is about. You say, Corey, I'm doing a short film. What is it about? I would tell you, oh, this is a film about a woman who's finding redemption from her past mistakes. Already, there's so much that you can infer from that sentence, but you know what the film is about. Probably going to be a drama, a woman who's had some sort of hard past who's trying to find redemption for some mistakes she's made. And as a director and as a filmmaker, as a writer, somebody who is crafting this narrative, you have to know what is happening. You need to know a clear vision of the story that you want to tell. If I can't clearly communicate my vision to one other person, how am I going to be able to communicate it to a cast, to the crew, to somebody I'm trying to pitch this to? Like if I'm trying to like get a feature film made from a short film, if I can't communicate a succinct theme and an overall point to what the film is, then I need to go back to the drawing board. Secondly, you need to have consistent characters in your films. When you write a short film, you have a limited amount of time to tell your story. You know, most short films range anywhere from like 7 to maybe 15 minutes on the long side. But regardless, that's a short amount of time. So you need to make every character, every line of dialogue really count. Short films are not the place to like have a character and have them make all these crazy decisions this way and that way and this way and that way. You can't do that. You need to introduce characters, we need to understand who that person is, and we need to understand what their role is in this story. You know, what do they represent? Do they represent an idea, a theme that you are trying to communicate? There is time and space in other films and other narrative forms to tell these long, winding stories about characters who have great backstory, and maybe they make a decision that seems very against their personality type, and you can explore that. And I love films that do that. But in a short film, you do not have that much time to do that. Even in big Hollywood films, when that is not set up correctly, when the character is not really explored correctly, and then all of a sudden they do something that seems very antithetical to who they are as a character, if it's not set up correctly, it feels very disingenuous and it doesn't play well in the story. So when you're doing a short film, make sure that you're writing characters, that they're saying things, that they're taking actions that really represent who they are. And the third thing that is so important when you're telling a story in a short film is to, when you make decisions, stand behind them. The thing I hate more than anything is when I'm watching a film and they make a really cool or creative decision and I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's really different. Only to find later in the film it backpedals and it's like, oh, not really. We didn't actually do that. We didn't actually really kill that character. We didn't actually mean that thing that we said because we know people might get offended, so we're pulling it back. You as a creative director, you as a writer, you as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, when you make a creative decision, you need to be able to stand behind that. I'm going to put the camera in a specific way because I'm trying to elicit a certain type of feeling, or I'm going to shoot this film at this frame rate because I'm trying to get this thing to happen. You as a person in charge needs to feel the confidence to stand behind that decision. And there's learning experiences from making creative decisions where maybe down the road after you look at the short film, you're like, okay, I would have done that differently. But to make a creative decision and not fully support it, to only go halfway and not commit, I think that's a disservice to the film. You've got creative vision, you've got consistent characters, and you need committed creative decisions. And if you pull back on some of those things, the film is going to suffer. I think it also does a disservice to us as creatives because we don't fully get to stand behind the thing that we're making. Because we're like, oh, I kind of like that idea and I didn't fully commit to it, so I wasn't sure. Like, it muddies the waters for us and the audience in them understanding what the film is about. Whew, I feel a lot better now getting some of that storytelling baggage off my chest. Just seeing a couple films in the theaters recently that just really violated all of these things. And it just left me really sour. And so I wanted to come back here and just process that. And, just to really share with you guys the things that I think make a good story. This is how you tell a good story in filmmaking. So if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'd like to hear from you guys. What are elements that you feel make a good story? When you're working on a short film, what are things you incorporate into your writing, into your videography, your directing? I want to hear all that stuff. So let me know down in the comments. And thank you so much for checking out the channel. Thank you for the subscriptions. And until next time, keep making movies and watching movies. And I'll see you next time on Reel Filmmaking.